This is Pick on the Olives.
Animesh, I'm here. Animesh, how's it going? You got you some lemonade?
When did you get here?
I just arrived just seconds ago.
Okay, and how did
I
you
just
get
walked in through the door, got some lemons from your tree, and poured myself a glass of
got lemons
lemonade.
from the tree before you got here.
I did, yeah.
Okay,
This was just last week, actually.
yeah, right. So you just broke and entered. and
Yeah,
just-
absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I thought, I mean, if you have lemons, you gotta make some lemonade.
Lemonade. That's life, right?
Cheers, yeah.
Ah, cheers, man. That's good. That's good lemonade as well.
Yeah, it's
Alright,
terrible, but
Sean and Dominique, guys. Let's get a round of applause for that. I'm gonna put that in the background. Sean here is a. Wait, can you?
introduce myself.
Yes, please.
Well,
Because I tend to mess it up all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. Well, currently I'm unemployed, so not starting
Hey,
off
man.
with the highest of ranks. Went from CEO to unemployed. I used to have my own startup, very early stage startup. Crashed and burned before anything picked up off the ground, but
Okay.
it was a great learning experience, very formative,
Mhm.
and it captured my interest in the world of entrepreneurship and,
Yeah.
and business.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we met, right? It was
Mm.
at a it was actually at the beginning of the UniMelb startup competition this year.
Pitch competition,
Yeah, the pitch competition, and then I think we walked over to the exhibition. It wasn't an exhibition; it was like a networking event, like by Aries and all of these other people.
Yeah, and
We
we
did that
and
together.
I distinctly remember you telling me about these drones that would change the
Oh,
agriculture.
man.
Your big vision for the world of
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. Wow, that's definitely a million ideas. All of them suck. That's why I'm here as well. But wait, hold on. So what was your what did you do your degree in though?
my degree. I studied biomedical engineering.
Ain't that cool?
Yeah,
Biomedical engineering.
it's
man.
cool. It's an up and coming major.
Up and coming major.
No, it's new. It's difficult for people to understand what biomedical engineering is.
Yeah.
It's
quite interesting.
it's like the world of the prosthetics, medical devices,
Yeah.
applying technology to improve human health.
Yeah, right. That's I don't know quite many people who are doing biomedical engineering. Well, actually, no, I do. I just don't ask them questions because I don't know what to ask them.
Yeah.
Were you able to go to the end of our exhibition? I think it was like last week. or
Which
the
one
week
was this?
before. So end of our exhibition, which was where the master students from UniMelb were basically showcasing their capstone projects.
Oh no, I didn't get a chance. I didn't
Oh,
get any
man.
notifications for that.
Oh right, yeah, but the thing was, right, because you've already graduated.
Oh,
Yeah. No, well, the thing was, the reason I bring this up is, I think it was almost clear that all of the biomed engineering and essentially like med tech stuff would be winning the favorite prize, just because.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, it was just incredibly specialized. I was going through the mechanical engineering department. They're talking about convolution neural networks, solar panels, future of sustainability. I'm like, yeah, I can get around to that. And then as soon as I made the turn to medtech, it was just like, so there was this one thing that was the chart that tells you what the name of the project is was like it was filled. It was like a
really maxed
sentence
out,
long.
really.
And so I was like, I didn't even know what question to ask.
Yeah.
So I think as someone who's done biomed engineering, does that put you in a better position to be able to understand the medtech business?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's kind of what the specialty is
Right.
for. And I if I'd stayed at UniMelb, I would have loved to do the biodesign course.
Yeah. What's the biodesign course?
So the biodesign course is inspired from the Stanford biodesign program, and at UniMelb they'll pair you with 3 or 4 MBA students.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing biomedical engineering, you're paired with another 2 or 3 biomedical engineers. And as a team of 5 to 6 individuals,
Yeah.
you go out and try to find a clinical need. And a clinical need is basically a problem in healthcare. Typically, they'll try to find this in Australia, so they
Yeah.
can interview clinicians and patients. But they'll try to find a clinical need and then come up with the best possible solution
Yeah.
and develop a whole pathway for commercialization.
Wow, incredible.
So they work for the entire year finding a clinical need, talking to stakeholders, and in medtech development
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah.
And they have to juggle all those things, tie those together, and at the end they're meant to present a prototype, or it would be like a mix of a prototype and a business plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of those companies end up spinning out, and some of them are becoming very successful,
Yeah.
and others are just really getting a feel for what it's like to commercialize a medtech device. And I think that's absolutely incredible.
MedTech, it's just such an incredible field where, innovation it's very important, right, for the future of humanity. I'd argue it's even more important than sustainability, because, if we can't improve human health lives, even if we can get out of this planet, if we're, if our mortality rate is like, oh yeah, we go up to 80 and everyone dies, it kind of sucks, right? Because you think that
I think it's pretty good.
You
mentioned where we've come from dying at the age of 35. I think we've added a couple extra years to our lifespan. I would disagree with that. I think sustainability is a much bigger issue. We'll be adding in the background.
Should we change
Something up?
change something up? Potentially survive on this planet. Just maybe
Somewhere else.
Wall-E, for example, is a really great example of how sustainability ignored to the extreme can lead to, trash everywhere. And I guess essentially that's the utopia for what I was talking about, is people living to 200, but everyone's obese and everyone's can't return to their planet. So their entire plan, their entire existence is on a spaceship, which I guess it's quite, not quite the world that we want to live in. That was a big spiral that we just went down, didn't we? And before we sort of, get into your experience, with Tensible, and your outlook beyond that, let's start with what's your viewpoint on life? Why do you do what you do?
The big questions. We start off there. It's going to be boring after that. The big question. Why do I do what I do? That's the soul-searching question that I'm trying to ask myself constantly, and find more clarity around that from either getting recommendations of amazing podcast series like from Huberman and Paul Conti on how to understand your mind and yourself much better. By looking into your past, or thinking about what are the things that you want to accomplish. Are you ambitious? Are you looking for freedom in some sense? Why do I do what I do? If I put myself in relation to other people, I think I do what I do because I care for people. I think people are intrinsically good, even if they might do bad things. Yeah. And I would like to help them be the best versions of themselves. Yeah, right. Because that's what I have been blessed to be able to do, and just kind of keep working at becoming a better person. Yeah. And I would want everyone to feel that way as well. Like they have, Dr. Paul Conti talks about this, have agency, have gratitude, and
the two pillars.
The two pillars of feeling peace. And then maybe in a more specific lens, I do what I do because I want people to, same as everyone. I want people to feel connected. I want people to feel happy. I don't want people to feel burdened by things that make them feel stuck and unhappy with life. Yeah. And that's easy to say from a privileged position, but I definitely think that everyone has capacity to improve their lives as much as they'd like to.
That's a really, really great outlook, and a lot of the perspectives that I've had over the course of meeting so many people in the last couple of months, it's honestly sad, but it's kind of rare to hear an outlook as healthy and positive as you have, which leads me to believe, maybe you are a bit of a romantic as well as Lex Friedman would be, for example.
What do you mean by that? What are some other perspectives that you've heard?
I think the biggest one is, the extreme one would be cynicism, essentially not really caring about what happens to the world or the people around you, just because, but then, there's the aspect of something that was not in your control, as in, all the situations that you were put through when you were a child, right? I think that just molds you in a specific way, which is why, like for me, like empathy it's crazy important because before I feel like you would understand this really well. Is if you don't understand where the other person's coming from, really try to understand that, then you will not be able to see what they're really capable of doing. So, which as you were saying, like you see good in people, even if they're not, necessarily always trying to make the world a better place. Sorry, there's just this fly trying to like botch our conversation. But I think that was cynicism, and then one step behind it is essentially this sense of desensitization, and we tend to blame it on social media because I think we can all agree that even though the world is probably in the most peaceful state that it's been ever, okay, probably not the current situation, but
yeah.
the
In the grand scheme of things.
yeah, but the paranoia of getting news from what's happening in the other side of the world brings fear. It's like, okay, it's gonna have a domino effect. So it's gonna start like having that. It's gonna start there, and then somehow, some way or the other, our country's gonna get involved, and then this is gonna happen, and then there's two mechanisms that are essentially there. One of them is like, okay, that's probably gonna happen, but I'm gonna still keep doing what I need to do, which is pretty rare now because of the instant gratification, that social media, all these other things bring. And then the other viewpoint, which is what I've seen so like regularly and dominantly, is essentially the sense that, yeah, it's ending, so I don't really care. I'm not gonna try and achieve my goals, or at least in a way. I'm sure that everyone would want to achieve their goals, but it's like, do I want to push myself as hard as I'm pushing right now? And a lot of the times it seems that the answer is no, which, I mean, again, anecdotal stuff. I've talked to maybe 25, 30 people, which does not account for, the entire population of the earth. But I think one thing that I want to ask you is, there's this one interesting thing in, I think it's Nietzsche who said that? I'm not sure. It's not Nietzsche, but essentially someone who was studying Nietzsche, who said that you can look at human civilization 400 years ago and then 40 years ago, and you can draw a parallel when it comes to human mannerisms. And so therefore, if you went all the way back in history and tried to see if, Judy was Judy was jealous of Meredith because she somehow made it to the top, it doesn't change. The narrative rarely changes. And I think I want to ask you this as well. Like, first, what's your opinion on that? And then the second question would be, it's said that evolution of the brain itself isn't necessarily as quick, or, yeah, I mean, it's quick, but like it's not as quick as, let's say the immune system. Now it's just rapidly, which with each generation it changes. So what do you make of that? What do you think about that?
About cynicism. Well, I think you have 2 points there.
Yeah.
About the cynicism, I think it's less fun to live like that. Personally, I think if you tie this back to evolution, the mind is so good at projecting itself and trying to identify, because you're trying to survive, right? So you're trying to identify all the potential pathways of possibilities when you get new information, and your brain's like, okay, well, what's the best one, and what's the one that's going to kill me? And if you can figure out the one it's going to kill you, and then you're able to divert from that.
Yeah.
So cynicism has its place, but again, coming back, I'll keep going back to Paul Conti a couple of times, just because this is the person that I've listened to very recently. So he's in the back of my mind. But that's a classic defense mechanism. You're just trying to protect yourself from harm.
Yeah.
So if you ruminate and if you project yourself into thinking about all the terrible things that could happen to you, then you're just going to be very, very paralyzed.
Yeah.
And the idea about pushing yourself is that you make sure that those defense mechanisms don't take control of your life in a way that is in a way that you don't want to live life. So that's what I have to say about cynicism. I think you just you have to work at it. You have to understand why you might be cynical, and you have to understand, okay, well, this is a possibility. Can I do anything about it?
Yeah.
If it's a giant big goal, do I want to do something about it? And
Yeah.
if I don't want to do something about it, that's okay. Not everyone has to be trying to solve world hunger, but do something that makes you happy. Do something that makes you feel good, and ultimately that you can lead that into helping others. And then in terms of the point was about Nietzsche and the cycles of history.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I haven't done much research into it, but I have this.
I guess from your experience, what would you essentially say about? I mean, reading at civilization. I mean, I'm sure you've learned in your history classes, from way back in 1800s to way before, and then looking into human behavior now. I guess like the point is human behavior. It seems to not really change much, and therefore we can sort of predict. Would you say that we can predict the behaviors of a certain community? Well, not okay. I probably messed myself up by saying community there. I meant like
it's fine.
Cohort of people, based on interactions with like a number of them who tend to be the leading factors. Because it seems like the leading members tend to, base what the mindset's going to be, right? But what would you say about that, though?
Yeah, I don't think it's predictable. I think human behavior is complex. It's not predictable. It is repeatable, and that's normal. Like evolution takes centuries and millennia to kind of to show its effects. And we are human. We're wired a certain way. So it's really exciting to see. This is kind of my personal. A personal side project that I'd like to kind of take off the ground later down the line, but I really want to see humans merge more with technology. I think that's virtual reality is kind of space where software is merging with the real world, and I wouldn't want humans to be overlaid with a virtual reality and escape from the real world. But I definitely think there are many ways that we haven't even thought of where you can enhance how we connect, how we interact with the world. Through an overlay of software, because we are very visual creatures. And then later down the line, you can also think about brain-computer interfaces or prosthetic limbs that allow you to jump 20 feet and land on your knees, even though you're 90 years old. And that just sounds fun to me. I think I would love to see some 2-year-old kid jumping like LeBron James and dunking a basketball. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that would bring the bar for sports like way beyond what it is right now.
Imagine what the things you could do, like just jump and I don't know.
I mean, boxing's gonna be like basically death matches. Well, I mean, but no, you make a really great point. I was gonna do a bit of a pushback when it came to like VR as well. Yeah.
I guess.
Nice sit on. Okay.
Right. This pillow is not the vibe. Right.
Now.
Do you mind if I put this here?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Now the pushback that I had was essentially that you're right when it comes to like human complexity, as in it is quite unpredictable. When I meant predictability was in the sense of the mindset that people might have, like the underlying mindset, then leads to all these unpredictable behaviors and how they speak, how what mannerisms they have. I think the underlying and I think Paul Conti talks about this as well, is as you start going up in terms of the mindset that you develop or whatever it is, it becomes simple. And I think that's a recurring theme that I might come back to as we discuss into like more as we get deeper into topics. But I think so.
We're a 14-part series.
14-part series, that would be funny. I reckon we should do it for like until we're like 60. We should actually do it.
Just once every year, and then just this giant conglomerate of episodes.
Giant
for no one to ever watch.
Hey, come on.
It'll be for us, the kids.
Yeah. No, I reckon we should do it every 5 years so that there's not as many,
Yeah.
but we'll be in different places. No, but the
Oh,
pushback
nice.
is that again, I know you're saying that we're not going to be glued to a virtual world and try and get sucked into that, but you know, I don't know about you, but gaming has been a big telling factor on how visual us being visual creatures and us being essentially a community driven species allows us to become more and more what's the word I'm looking for? More and more
Separated or
not really the exact opposite
glued to the
actually.
screen? Oh, connected.
Connected, like more and more connected, more and more involved with the idea of like, you know, say games. You just spend hours grinding on that game or playing that game, maybe because you enjoy it. But then, when you enjoy it too much, it just goes beyond the other things that are in life that are beautiful. Like us sitting out in the sun and then doing this. I don't reckon there's if there's a gamer who's been playing for like 5 years, League of Legends, they haven't touched grass. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
No,
I am
but
a
what I'm
walking
trying
testament to that.
Yo. No, but what I'm saying is, if we have those systems in place, even as they advance towards the way that Zuckerberg's been able to do, which is quite incredible, made me swallow my words. But I still don't think he's responsible enough.
Yeah, that's more of a political question than
That is true. But I think the pushback. Wow, I've been long winding when it comes to describing this. But
No,
what
that's
I'm
all
trying
right.
to say is, I think that virtual systems, great for education, great for connection, having those avatars which are very lifelike. But then beyond that, I don't really see any. I think we may have reached not a filtration point, but a saturation point when it comes to this technology. Again, that's probably
Interesting. Okay.
closed-mindedness
Yeah.
potentially, but
You could also
even
be right. Yeah.
unless there's something novel that we can do, which
What? Okay. So let me ask this question, and I'm very excited about diving deeper into the XR industry. I think it's an awesome technology.
yeah,
But I don't know enough about it to really like have a strong opinion about it.
yeah,
But I want to know what the idea of saturation is interesting because it's kind of like this conversion point of a lot of new emerging technologies.
yeah,
Are they going to explode, like portable phones or the internet, or are they going to crash and burn? I think VR is very much in this like the VR believers are like this is going to take
yeah,
off.
yeah,
I'm a natural optimist, so
yeah,
I like the technology, so this is the stance I have at the moment.
yeah,
But other people are just like, nah, this is a fad. No one's wearing fat goggles on their face, and like we're trying to get away from technology. We're trying to disconnect more,
yeah,
and that's improving a lot of people's mental health.
yeah.
So why are we trying to add more layers to that and make it even more immersive? But so what do you mean by saturation?
I believe that. Well, I don't believe. I think
Yeah, yeah.
that essentially, I don't know. Have you seen Free Guy, the film?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's this NPC that comes to life, essentially becomes sentient, and then so if he wears that goggles, he just sees all these virtual things around him, like health bars and all that, and then when he presses on it, his health just goes back up to like 100, whatever.
Oh, really?
But if we're talking about VR utopia, then we're probably going in that direction, maybe. Potentially, essentially having these very seamless goggles or whatever it is. That it's not like this giant Meta Quest stuff that we have right now,
Yeah, of course.
but it just becomes dialed down to which I think Zuckerberg even started with the.
The Google Glass, or is it
Yeah,
not a Google Glass,
it's
but
not,
the equivalent of, yeah.
yeah, yeah, essentially.
It'll be with the miniaturization of stuff. I think
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
battery is the main limitation, but
yeah.
it'll be contact lenses.
Yeah. So, from that perspective, it's like, okay, that would be a very, very interesting world to live in. There's a lot of addition that can happen. It's like, you could learn more about the world around you just by wearing those glasses, and it doesn't affect your eyes. All these things kept aside, we're still looking at actually, you know what? I might be choking up on myself right now.
No,
Because
no.
now it sounds interesting to
I
me
think
as well.
explain to me the thought process as to why you were originally saying
In saturation, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I am of the same viewpoint as many others when it comes to the idea that we need to sort of limit the technology that we get ourselves involved with. As in, you know, medtech stuff like which is improving, you know, health, you know, bionic legs, bionic arms, whatever it is, whatever is giving people more mobility, more ability to go around the real world and do stuff. That's great, you know. But if we talk about virtual reality, it's unless regulated in a way that's not regulated, but more like limited in a way that, you know, you're gaining information, but at the same time you're not going too deep into it. Like you're not spending hours a day in your room or even walking outside, not interacting with people, but just like maybe watching a video or whatever it is. I reckon that wouldn't be great. But I guess I
Oh,
think it would
you
be.
make an absolutely good point. I agree with that. I think it's so easy to see how that would be a slippery slope to just
Yeah.
kids. I guess that's all the dystopian pictures
Yeah.
of that. It's just kids like wearing these headsets and they're just like
Yeah.
zoning out. But okay, you're a gamer. I'm also a gamer. What's the classic argument that you have with your parents? It's like you're not you're wasting your time. You're not really developing any connections. But as a gamer, you have the perspective of, well, it's a good point. Maybe spending all my time on playing games is probably not what I should be doing.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely a richness to playing games, and I think video games can enhance creativity because you're able to create new worlds.
Yeah.
You're able to embody a character in some sense. You're able to customize that character. There's game mechanics that allow you to develop some sort of neural reflexes. I'm not going to push the fact that games might improve you cognitively, but I'm saying that there's a lot that happens in video games, and I don't think it's all bad.
Yeah.
And there's a huge amount of connection that happens through video games and community,
it really does.
and I think you just have to make sure that it doesn't take over, it doesn't replace, and that's where the danger of virtual reality is that because it's so immersive, it's very easy to dream of a world, or dream of, it's going to be a dream, nightmare of a world where that becomes the replacement for this conversation.
Yeah.
And instead of ever having conversations like this, we only have conversations in our little cubicles.
Yeah.
And it seems like we've got this beautiful space around us. But I think the human body is pretty attuned to picking up on reality versus what's virtual.
Yeah.
And even though we might be cognitively immersed with our attention, our body will slowly degrade from that, from not spending actual time together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be like any technology. You just have to make sure that there's regulation and that there's that people are educated on the risks of being lost in a VR headset.
Yeah.
But there's so many amazing things. I think just a simple idea, for example, is like navigation, right? They're exploring that in hospitals. Just if you have a headset or these glasses, you're gonna be able to see exactly which ward to go to.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be lost. Like looking on your phone, I'm an absolute idiot when it comes to navigation. I get lost all the time.
Yeah.
And with Google Maps, I'm just like running around in circles. Sometimes if thing's broken, I'll end up 2 kilometers that way.
Yeah.
If I just have a VR headset on, well, probably not a headset, but glasses, with Google Map arrows just showing like, okay, turn left.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking at the whole space, and I also have the direction in my field of view.
I think that's, again, looking at it from an optimistic view, which again I share that with you. I really do think.
You didn't a second ago.
No, I'm getting to my point. So I do have a very optimistic view in terms of, the utopian version of it is essentially people are able to press a button on the side of their head, and it's essentially giving you all the information you need whenever you need it, your heart rate and whatever it is. You have information about your health, and that's really great. But a couple of things. First thing is that the bodies that are currently leading this technology, not very responsible people. Again, an opinion, not exactly a fact, which I'd like to make it very clear. Opinions, neither of us are, but I can speak for myself,
No,
but
neither
I'm
of
not
us
an expert.
are
So
PhD students in the matter, have done extensive research,
yeah,
and we're
so
talking for fun.
we're kind of talking for fun,
Yeah.
I'm talking out of my ass a little bit, but
most of the time that's what we do. Yeah.
No, but I think one of the things is we don't have responsible people leading this technology, and again, a narrow perspective that I bring from my side. And when it comes to gaming is, yes, communities are formed. It's incredible, not League. League is not a very good community. You don't want to go down that
Interesting
path.
one. There's a lot of back and forth.
Yes, there is. I was actually talking to my friend. We were on a run yesterday, and we were talking about how gaming sort of sometimes consumes you. And League of Legends is one of those things that always pops up, because he was telling me about how a couple of months ago they started playing together, right? Like he's a plat or whatever. And
filthy platinum
just
player.
filthy plat player. And then essentially it got them tilted so hard because one of them kept messing up that it almost ended
Oh,
a
really?
very long friendship. Yeah. So they quit.
Seriously?
Yeah. So they
Oh my
quit
God,
playing
okay.
it. But it's been in cycle for about a couple of years now. So they've
Yeah.
been
Oh,
having
they-
this. They stopped playing it,
Yeah.
almost lose their friendship, quit, and then a couple of months later they're back at it again. I had a similar experience as well. But essentially, my point is, yes, great communities are formed, great experiences are made. Creativity is, you've got these custom built levels of Mario or whatever. However, not a lot of that translates into someone trying to, make a game and then, or like, build a game studio or something like that. And again, narrow perspective. Right now, the last couple of months, I've just been exposed to this idea of like, you got to be useful in this world. You can definitely exist. There's nothing wrong with existing, providing for your family and then playing games for fun. Maybe even getting a little too into it. That's fine. There's people who make a living out of playing games, right? But they're entertainers. You got to be entertaining. But when you indulge in gaming, and my experience is once I get into a game and I like it, I would want to keep coming back to the patience between two sessions. It just keeps dropping. So as you indulge more and more into this world, you become less useful, I think, because you're doing things from a very, very selfish perspective, which is fine. As a human being, you have every right to think about yourself before you put other people ahead. But if you want to, add something to the world, I don't think that playing video games is going to do that. You can make video games that can inspire people. Zelda didn't inspire me, but it definitely did make me.
You're being an advocate for creating games, but then you're saying that we shouldn't play them. Where's the nuance there? Because if you're creating games and you want to inspire people through storytelling or through just fun, you need people to play them, right?
Great point. I think now when I talk about games, I feel like I should be more clear on this. Is that games such as which are very, very strong story-driven games, right? But if you've got, say for example, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a really, really great example of story-driven plus grinding, but just to the right extent. Like if you get too frustrated, you're gonna stop playing the game for a bit, which is good. If there's a boss that you just can't beat, you play like 4 or 5 times, you can't beat it. You're just like, damn, I'm really not great at this game. And then you just sit with it for a bit. You go on YouTube, you see these guys beat it in 2 seconds, and then you're like, what the hell? And then they teach you how to do it. You come in, you play the game, you beat it, the total number of hours that you end up spending is maybe 20, 30 hours tops, unless you really suck, in which case that's your fault. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I think, yeah, that was a bit hypocritical for me to be.
No, no,
But,
no, not at all.
but
Not at all. I was just asking about what the nuance was there, because I agree with you. I think I think there's value in creating games, creating stories, writing books,
yeah.
creating art. There's a lot of value because people take some sort of motivation from that. Or
Let me ask
inspired.
you this though. Sorry, again,
Yeah, no, so
interrupting.
good.
I apologize for interrupting, but when I say, games consuming you, it's when it becomes less about stories that actually give you some meaning, and
Becomes
more
more about
about,
plugging in and repetition and just
yeah,
escaping. Yeah.
it's like doing reps in the gym, except it's not good for your brain. It's not good for your health. It's not good for, your mental health, physical health. It's good for nothing.
Yeah.
And you're just doing this because there's a sense of gratification, because, if you get like a triple kill, again, I keep coming back to the example of League because it's such a big game. I haven't played Valorant or these other games, and I don't want to. These games have no meaning. I don't see, except for memes and fun, which, okay, I just want to be very clear that it's fine to play these games. I have really great friends, very close friends, who I've tried them to like, for them to push to like, like, hey, watch this Goggins video, or read this book. Maybe it'll inspire you to like maybe do something with, rather than just exist. Again, completely fine. But I think games like these, and unfortunately games in general, these games higher up there in the likelihood, other games still there's a likelihood that you just become consumed by it, and then you just don't have any output. Your consumption rate becomes way more than your creation rate. I think story-driven games might inspire you to make a game, or write a story, or make a video, do something that's entertaining for other people or helpful for other people. But these other games, I don't think, I think they're the killer of dreams. I hold kind of a strong opinion on this, which I've learned from reading the Steve Jobs biography. I think what's your opinion on this in the sense of holding strong opinions?
Of holding strong opinions.
Strong opinions on certain things. It doesn't have to be everything. You can be open-minded.
I think values is an example of strong opinions. I think it's important to have values. I think it's important to have strong opinions. It doesn't mean you need to be super strongly opinionated about everything.
Yeah.
But it helps craft how you move through the world.
Yeah.
Coming back to your point about games, I think you can't. I think you're, and I learned this from studying pain for a couple months when I was doing the startup.
Yeah.
You can't expect that your interpretation of the world is applicable to everyone. Everyone is so unique in their experience of pain, their experience of playing a video game, their experience of life is so unique. What I agree with is the sense. I don't think I have the words to get to it, but the sense that you should be creating. You shouldn't be just existing.
Yeah.
You should be. If you're just passively kind of repeating, just triggering your neurochemicals to kind of just get into some sort of repetitive action. You're not creating anything, and I don't think there's value there. But that doesn't mean that there's no value in games, or there's no value in a certain type of games. Your perception of how you want to live life, whether that be through following practices like or mindsets that Steve Jobs had, or David Goggins, that's your own, and maybe your friends are just not really that interested in that. But I think baseline, I agree. Like, it doesn't make sense to be pouring your time into I guess what you would call sinkholes.
That's pretty good, actually. Sinkholes.
Sinkholes. They're just not. You're not creating anything. But what you define as creation, what you define as sinkhole, is very very subjective. And that's why I wouldn't put a blanket statement on video games. It's just what you take out of it.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it. It's important to come back to
Yeah.
service to others because
Yeah.
as social animals,
Yeah.
it's really important to help each other out.
No, that's great point you make there. Again, in terms of perspectivism, the idea that all of this, a lot of the life experiences, values, all of that, it's subjective. It's very specific to an individual, right? So, I think we're gonna slowly like now move into entrepreneurship very soon because I feel like that's a major thing that we want to talk about.
As you do. Did you have
So I might stand for
stand for a little bit?
So
Power pose.
Power pose, just slightly extreme. Putting my dominance in there. Nope.
So good. You were saying you were segueing into entrepreneurship, but were you gonna put a close to the conversation about?
I think there was gonna be a close.
Gaming?
I think So something like Goggins, for example, is cringe to a lot of people, and understandably, it is an extreme mindset.
But even to people who are super like productivity guru or push yourself or hustle culture.
Yeah.
Even a lot of people who are part of that think he's cringe, but honestly, who cares?
Well,
if he's cringe, just if you like him, then if it resonates with you, then take away from that. And if it doesn't, then call him cringe and do whatever else you want.
Absolutely. No, see, that's another great point. It's like, because the reason I'm doing the half marathon this December, like I did like 15.6K yesterday, was because of him. Because it's a very simple idea. It's essentially, when you're trying to improve yourself, just turn your feelings off and just do it, because and we might get into analysis paralysis and how we can talk about that once we get into entrepreneurship, where I think it's a very dominant feature to have. But the closing point that I wanted to make,
I just want to add, quickly interject by saying, I think turning your feelings off is it's not about turning your feelings off. I think it's about understanding. It's about emotional regulation, and this is a topic that I came into a couple months ago, and I think it's so powerful, and I really want to learn how to leverage my emotions into doing things that I want. I don't think it's about turning your emotions off, because I think emotions are awesome. That's really what gives meaning to life.
But that's what you. So this is the closing point.
Yeah. Go for it.
So this is the closing point.
I'll let you have the spotlight on. This comment.
No, sorry. You can
go for it.
You can definitely finish what you were about to say. But what I was essentially going to say, this is why I like the idea of being on more sort of, as we start the discussion, to be on sort of extreme ends or opposite ends, because I believe that we come up with better arguments, sometimes extreme, but that can be debunked as long as we come back to the center, where we're just like logical individuals and also feeling individuals who are trying to understand each other's perspectives, right? So that's why I think when I say something like, VR is going to get saturated, and then you're like, why is that? And then I come up with points, some of them being good, some of them being, illogical or something that can be debunked, and you do that. And, same with video games that we just had. And right now, the same thing we just had with feelings, right? I said we should probably turn our feelings off. But, what I meant when I said it could be different to how you perceived it. And at the same time, you also make an absolutely amazing point when you say that, it's way better to actually regulate your emotions and understand, because you're understanding yourself. You're trying to be good to yourself rather than, calling yourself a bitch is probably not really very healthy, right?
No.
But I guess that's sort of the closing point on that. But it's a really great segue into entrepreneurship. I think it's going to be, it has been so far, it's been more for you than for me, because you've actually, started a company and then seen it, rise and then have an unfortunate crash.
Just bare keeping my head above water, see what's going on, just duck down before I get bombed by the big VCs or whatnot.
Yeah, right. But, I think it's going to be a big part of both of our lives. 5 years from now, when we do our next session,
Yeah, I know.
I reckon
I'm excited to see where we'll both be.
Yeah.
I'll be not disappointed, but just very surprised if we haven't made leaps forward in that direction. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think this is something that we resonate with. Really.
Yeah, we definitely do. I, on the other hand, I would be disappointed if neither of us actually made it there. Even either of us making it. Well, I'd be more happy if you made it all the way to the top, and I'm just like, damn it, I knew it. I knew you'd make it. So I'd be very happy with that. But essentially, getting into that now. The first thing is, just yesterday I had, and I want to share this with you. I want to get your input on this because we had a very long conversation last week, I believe, where we were just going on, updating each other on what happened, and I took advice from you.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. So just yesterday, I had, I think, one of the worst anxiety attacks I've ever had because
Sorry about that.
yeah, that
Gods
thing's gonna,
are listening.
that's gonna, yeah. No,
You feeling better now? Working, processing through it.
yeah, just
Yeah.
processing it better
Good.
because, not a lot of time left in my hands. Again, not something for me to bother with explaining completely.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just understanding that there's about 6 months that I have in time, and coming up with a really good business that will take off in that period. It's just incredibly difficult in and of itself. But the last, I don't know, 24 hours, I was just sitting there trying to do something, but this thing here, the stomach, is just dying, And I met up with my business partner after a long period, and he was supportive, but at the same time, the pressure's on. And, I don't want him to, and he also doesn't intend to, take his heel off of my neck. But I hated the idea that I was in analysis paralysis, where I was just trying to do something, but then not being able to do it because I was worried that I wouldn't make progress. And so, is that something that you've experienced, with both with Tensible and with other endeavors that you've had, and how have you navigated that?
I think the first thing that got my attention, or the main point that got my attention, is I would be wary. This is my view of life. I'd be wary of being in a partnership with someone who makes you feel like they've got their foot on your neck. I know you're using that as a metaphor, but I think if there's a sliver of truth in that, I would be wary of being in a partnership, and that has nothing. That's not reflective of your partner. It's just reflective about your cohesion. And I think it's infinitely better to be partnered with someone that excites you, and that's like, let's go, let's motivate it. And I think those will yield better results, especially in the long term. I just want to make that little point. How do I relate to that in terms of Tensible? I'm sorry to hear that you had that anxiety attack. I also had towards the end of Tensible, like this amalgamation of analysis paralysis, feeling completely stuck, not knowing where to do with my life and with Tensible. And I think that's a pretty common feeling when you either reach the end of a road, or you're grappling with too much stuff. What can I say to help you right now? I would say the company is not the end all be all. A guy, someone who actually inspired me to jump into the XR industry, he recommended a book to me called The E-Myth. Doesn't have
taking that
look at it.
Right now.
It doesn't have revolutionary ideas. I haven't even finished it yet, but it's really helped me just understand a bit more what it means to work on the business as opposed to in the business. And I think it'll be really helpful to you because, similar to me, we're interested in things like game design. We're interested in things like programming. We're interested in things like business. We're interested in a lot of things, and that's awesome. But the way he frameworks it at the start is you have the technician, so the person who just focuses on building, on being in the business, on taking things forward. And the story that he relates to that is the baker. And then you have the manager. And the manager is the person who has to make sure that everything's in order and that you're making progress, and that everyone's working
Yeah.
cohesively. So remember, technician is the one who's just working, focused on getting the thing done. Manager's making sure that everything works well, and then the entrepreneur is the person who is focused on making sure the business is gonna grow and move forward. And he says that the people who go into small business tend to be
Yeah.
the technician,
Yeah.
and they believe that just because I know how to bake pies, just because I know how to create something in VR, just because I know how to develop games, means that I know how to do business in that field. And that's not true at all. And the reason I bring it up to you is because I think it helps me understand I have these three parts of me, and I don't have to satisfy them all in this one passion or this
Yeah.
one sentence of who I am.
Yeah.
I can satisfy those different parts of me in many ways. So for example, the technician, the part of me who likes to create and build things, I don't think that would make sense to, I guess it depends what you do, but it always depends. That's that's
Oh
life, isn't
man,
it?
that's that central.
But I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
I think you can satisfy your desire to create things in hobbies or other pursuits of a career or
Yeah.
of a way to make money. But if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur is not worried about building something. He's worried about building a business. So he's worried about building something,
Yeah,
but it's a
yeah,
business.
yeah.
That's different. And I think that would help. The reason I think that would help you, thinking a bit more like that, is because you wouldn't think about, okay, well, how am I going to optimize my strengths, my desires, what the market wants, what customers want, like
Yeah.
this impossible equation.
Yeah.
Um,
It is.
and yeah, no, it is an
It is
impossible
an impossible.
equation.
Yeah.
And you, because when the customer wants something else, you're like, well, I want to build this. So just
Oof.
yeah,
That's such a great point. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Sorry, I
No,
get
no,
an
no, it's
interjection
okay.
on that.
Yeah.
Is just because it just
Jump in.
reminded me of how this whole outlook with Steve Jobs, what he did. Again, that's something that I've read recently, which is why I bring that up. Is his whole thing was the people don't know. Like consumer doesn't know what they need, and so therefore he focused so much on. So, I mean, a lot of the times he failed. And again, okay, that brings. Oh man,
there's
this is-
nuance there. There's nuance there because it is true that the customer doesn't know what they want, and that's your job as the entrepreneur to be like, well, let me not only figure out what it is you want, but build it
Yeah.
and then distribute it to you,
Yeah.
and find a way to make money so we can keep doing that,
Keep doing that. Yeah.
keep providing value to you.
Yeah.
But
Henry Ford. You know what he said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They wanted a faster horse, not a car. That's what people. So, but I
Exactly.
think that's pretty rare, though, right?
What do you mean?
As in, when it's the same with actually VR as well, and also with the future of gaming and whatnot, because I think that also has reached a bit of a saturation point where indie games are actually making, because they're more nimble. But we can talk about nimbleness in a bit. It's just that. We think so. I think right. I'm of the opinion that VR is saturated. It's not going to get a lot better just because of the people leading it.
Yeah,
But
I disagree with that.
yeah, no.
That's why I'm excited for it. Yeah.
That's fine. I'm excited. I'm really hoping I get proven wrong. I'd be very happy. But my thinking is, or what I'm trying to say is that. What am I trying to say? Well,
We were talking about like creator and balancing the equation of what the market wants and what you want.
right, yeah. So what Henry Ford said about faster horses and not an actual car, that leap right there is something that doesn't happen every 5 years, every 10 years. In this last 10 years, that's definitely happened a lot. But perhaps it's gonna slow down for a bit, and then it's gonna make that leap. It's the same with VR. So right now, I'm of the opinion that we can't make faster horses because that's just you'd have to genetically modify.
Yeah.
You gotta go for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
No, but
Excuse me, listeners.
no,
That wasn't too bad.
and viewers. You gotta say bless you, by the way.
Thank you.
So
Here
yeah,
comes
no,
the
sorry,
third.
that's just a bit of a. There we go. That's number 3. Bless you.
Out. Yeah, thank you.
All right. No, but that was what that was. Now, let's talk about. Sorry, you were talking about how, this impossible equation, which people tend to not be able to get through. So, did you want to complete your point?
Yeah, my point is to
Do you want to
say.
stand over there and say, let's do a standing segment for a
Yeah,
bit?
sure. Let's do it really
Wait, hold
close,
on, did you
really
wanna
close to the camera.
Yeah, just here, because I want to see if the focus is on us.
My point was to say that
Yeah.
you can satisfy your desires to be creative without necessarily having to tie that to a business. And I think that gives you a lot of freedom because you can do that through hobbies. You can do that through activities.
Yeah.
And another thing I learned with emotional and energy management, it's like
Yeah.
you wanna leverage deep work. You wanna think about
Yeah.
this is a bunch of productivity terminology, but you
Perhaps
wanna leverage
we can
deep.
quickly
Yeah,
get into that in a bit.
yeah, of
I know
course.
you've got
Deep
we'll do
work,
it, yeah.
but you also want to be like you want to be focusing on rest. Resting is so important for the
Oh.
mind and the body. So and during those rest times, that's when you make sure that you're not spending 15 hours in the video game because
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, okay, well, let me just mind-numbingly do this.
Yeah.
Be proactive in the way that you engage, and however you decide to rest is up to you, and that's where you can be a creative. That's when you can create these videos.
Yeah.
If you don't want to make a business out of this,
Yeah.
but if you want to make a business out of something, you're providing value to the customer. It's not about providing value to you. You make profits, but that's really the idea.
That's you know what, that reminds me of how you were talking about when I told you, hey, I want to, I'm thinking of doing hybrid engines once once I get out of uni, and you were like, no, hold on, I like that you want to do that, but if that's a passion project that isn't commercializing something, then sure. But if you want to commercialize things, you can't just go and be like, hey, here's something that you might need. Because some people don't need a new kind of toothpick. The one that they have right now works just fine.
I've never used a toothpick in
never
ages. Yeah.
in ages. Okay,
Yeah.
I just like to have it. Look kind of cool, like a mob boss.
Like a cowboy.
Yeah, a cowboy or a mob boss. You know what I mean?
You've got the pimp shirt.
Yeah, I got the pimp shirt. I just wanted to look cool today. You know. I am on Hinge. Sorry. I just, anyways,
plug it in.
plug it in.
Just swipe a couple times to find you.
Don't swipe left on me. Anyways, I think risks. This has been big in reading both the biographies. Again, limited thing, but also something that all my life I've experienced first-hand experience of just these incredible leaps of risks that both my parents have taken this as well. Even these figures have tended to take. Now, obviously, a lot of these times, these people have fallback. Like they have fallback options, right? But when you've spent years and years in building something, and then you take this one leap that could completely flatten the entire company, right? It tends to, and this is what Walter Isaacson also kept bringing back in the Elon Musk biography. It's like Elon tends to know something about risk that we don't, or he has that certain knack for risk that allows him to do these jumps and not be, in that analysis paralysis state. And so I guess my question to you is, and again, this is also the same piece of advice that I got from my business partner, who is way more experienced than I am. And also about the foot and the heel thing, I think it's more about my perception of it rather than his perception.
Yeah.
He sees it as his whole thing is to try and nurture me into someone, to be a very, very capable entrepreneur, right? Which I'm always grateful, which I tend to go to the extreme where when I'm not working on the business, it makes me very guilty. Something to work on myself. I'll definitely look into E-Myth. Is that? No.
E-Myth, yeah.
E-Myth, yes.
Yeah.
I'll look into the book. But coming back to risks, again, personal question, you can say no to answering that, but do you have a partner?
Romantic partner?
Yes.
No, not at the moment.
Do you have a kid? Do you have a kid?
Hinge, Tinder, swipes. No.
Do you have a kid?
No, I don't have a kid.
You don't have a kid.
No.
So, in this stage,
Oh my God, yeah. It would be
are
so difficult to take risks if you have children. Yeah.
I think both of us are in the most incredible position to be taking incredible risks. And his even my business partner gave me the advice that I think would be helpful for you as well, is that you are allowed to spread yourself thin. Get rid of unnecessary stuff. But you can spread yourself thin. If you don't do it now, when do you intend on doing it?
Absolutely. I think, but don't don't project that to mean that you need to be exhausted or that you need to be unhappy with yourself. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it does not make sense in the long term. Spread yourself thin, push yourself, work as hard as you can, and take risks. Those are all true.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you also have to be exhausted and unhappy. I think those two can perfectly coexist.
Yeah.
And the game of life is figuring out how to do those things well.
Yeah.
That's why we have conversations with people who are in the same space trying to do the same things, because we're like, okay, well, what can you teach me that's going to help me be a bit closer to that more happy, peaceful mindset? Where I'm also doing all these amazing things.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's just like, I wouldn't say. The reason I'm bringing it up is because when you were talking about David Goggins pushing yourself, like not listening to your emotions, feeling like I have a heel on my neck, to me that alludes to the fact like, no, I'm just not going to appreciate that feeling good with yourself is important. And I think feeling good with yourself just catapults all the other stuff so much further as well.
Yeah.
So just do both. Do both. It doesn't mean you have to find more time. It's just reallocating it and figuring out, okay, well, what matters to me?
Yeah.
And how do I prioritize?
Look at that, will you?
Oh, mate, that's beautiful. This is the ones that got shot up?
This one got shot up, this one didn't.
Whoa, I'll let you hold the...
Yes, please. I was going to hold on to it.
There's a moment
like
of pride there. Mate, that's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
What? How far? You said 2K?
Yeah, this one went up to 2,000 feet.
How does that work?
What do you mean?
What do you mean what I mean? How do you get this 2,000 kilometers in there?
You just had a lot of stuff coming out the back, you know? So it's like, it was, the motor was an I-class, you know, it was 500 newtons of thrust going out of here. And a lot of my rocketry
It's a motor?
teammate, we had a commercial off-the-shelf motor that we just plopped it in, and you can see there's been the motor's still in there, but you know, it's been used up.
Yeah. And you have to define, how do you, like, what decisions go into making these? You have definitely, the differences I noticed is
changes,
here, material, color, but I think color's more for aesthetic.
Color's pretty primarily aesthetic.
These things, like what decisions, what goes into making these decisions?
Lots of things. I think there's a software called, wow, I forgot what it is. It's a simulation software that's open source essentially. I can remember FinSim. FinSim is what does the simulation for fins so that it doesn't break when when it's going up, and then once it hits apogee when it's coming down, just to check whether it'll be able to hold all of that thrust, right? But essentially, you do those simulations, you make the decisions so that it's at a certain stability range, and then once you do that, you start developing it, you start building it. So for both of these, I did a fiberglass coat on top. That was overkill, but...
So it's cardboard and then fiberglass on top?
Yeah.
Why?
Just so that it's more sturdy, it holds the actual ejection charge going through.
It's just cardboard.
Yeah, it's kind of overkill when
That's
you do
awesome.
the fiberglass, but...
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, the way that I developed this one was so that I could turn this into a level 2. A level 2 rocket goes up to like... Well, it kind of can go up to the same distance, but it has to have dual eject. As in, there needs to be 2 parachutes coming out instead of 1.
Whoa, okay.
So
From where? From the top?
Well, yeah, it depends where you want to have it released. So you have what is called an altimeter or a flight computer, which does the ejection automatically.
Yeah.
So you don't...
At a certain altitude?
Yeah, at a certain altitude, it just pops it open and then all that. Because for this one, what it was there was another little charge that was going to go off, and that popped the thing out, and then I've got a parachute in there.
What? Can I take it out?
Yeah, go
Let's
for
see
it.
what it is. I don't know how hard it is
It's
to
probably
pack.
stuck in there, but... there it is.
Let's see.
That right there is the cover for the parachute, so that when the actual ejection charge goes off, it doesn't burn the parachute.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ordered this
Whoa.
from America. Like, this thing was very expensive.
Really?
Yeah, it was like $80 for this.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Yeah.
were gonna say like couple hundred.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh well, no, the flight computer cost a couple hundred. It was 200 or 300. Yeah, this
Dude,
thing.
that's awesome. And this is just a piece of cloth that goes over it.
Yeah, well, that's what we call. I forgot what it's called. Honestly, I don't even remember this stuff. But yeah, this popped off when this went off. I was like so
Yeah, I see.
anxious throughout. You know, this thing comes off, which is pretty cool. You know, I was pretty happy with this design. Oh wait, hold on, never mind. I don't know. It comes off. I've forgotten where it
Here,
comes off
maybe?
from. No, it's. Oh, actually, no, it is here. Probably. I don't know. Is it here? Yeah, I have to. Yeah, let's see.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I have to take that out as well. But essentially, I made it detachable so that I could put my second parachute, you know, in here. And
So
then,
both things have to attach, and then you have 2 parachutes?
yeah, you've got 2 parachutes. One of them comes off. It's a very small parachute. That's essentially a drogue. We call it a drogue parachute, I think.
What does that mean?
No, drogue. Drogue parachute is essentially something that will slow it down before the actual parachute comes off.
Yeah, okay.
That's because, you know, when you're all the way up at apogee is like the maximum height. When you're at that distance, if you open the big parachute, then it's gonna like float
Oh,
all the way,
okay,
right?
okay.
So,
Smart, okay, yeah.
yeah. So what the drogue does is it essentially just slows down the
Excuse
fall
me.
for a bit, and then the main parachute deploys, and then so you won't be like finding it for hours, you know, trying to find it for hours.
Oh,
That
and
happens.
you have to look for it? But
Yeah.
wouldn't there be a GPS in it?
Well, you could put it in, but you know, usually at this level we don't. I was gonna put an
Okay.
air tag in it, but it was useless, so I didn't.
Oh, yeah, good question. Where can I find an AirTag? Because I'm going hitchhiking.
You came like maybe a day late because I had
Oh,
one and I would have just given it to
shame.
you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I had to return it, but that's what I bought the Peter Attia book, which is called Outlive. I'm very excited for that book. I'll let you know
Yeah.
how that read is.
What is it? What is it about?
It's essentially about longevity and, you know, doing whatever you can in your life to lead a very, 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 very like strong and healthy life.
Yeah.
You know, which is probably again being very reductive based on what he did. Now we are sort of moving towards the end. I know you've got places to be, man. I know you're a busy man. I love that. I respect that. Time is one of those things that I've always been exceptionally mindful of, maybe too mindful of, because I can't enjoy the moment ever.
Yeah, learn to do that. I'm learning to do that as well.
Yeah,
It's important.
yeah. So, you know, I think you and I really do think we've had a very, very unique friendship in that.
It was a unique
Well,
beginning, as you said. We didn't go too much into depth, but it was just we were listening to this pitch competition. I think
yeah.
you made a mumble comment. I was like, "What was that?" And then joked around while they were talking. I think we got told off for it. And
Yeah, we did.
no, they didn't like they didn't like
They
us
didn't like that
coming
we
up with
were.
ideas at a startup pitch competition.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, it was fun.
It was
really fun.
yeah. It's, you know, so I have this in my head. I've got this very, very small circle of like people that I would, you know, if I had like a battleship, right? I'd have these people on board, like being on that table, right?
Noah's Arch.
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah. Okay, no,
Except-
like a battleship though. But it's more like people who I've seen. I think you're the closest person I've seen who's got a very similar outlook on life, a very similar that curiosity I haven't seen in. You know, I haven't seen anyone actually so far. I guess sort of reflecting on the friendship that we've had so far, and you know, going forward, because you know we are kind of, you know, you are heading off in a different world, yeah.
The world, man, the world is small. The world is
small.
small.
It is small.
Especially with my new VR technology, it'll be like we're just here.
I'm actually very keen on how you do. In fact, you know,
Yeah,
there's a pitch that I said I'd tell you about. I think, if anything, this might even add to that. We could probably combine it and turn it into something quite. Oh wow, actually. Okay, we'll talk about this
Yeah,
outside of the
sounds
actual
good.
podcast. But you know, I think one last thing that I want to talk to you about is sleep. The one thing that I've been consistent with over the last couple of months is ensuring that I journal and then sleep, 7 hours of sleep. I think I've tried like once when I finished the Musk book, you know how you try to emulate.
Mm.
And that's how I like to learn from figures, is to emulate what they do. And I was on like 2 cans of like Monster Ultra energy
According
drinks.
to who?
Sorry.
According to whom? Who was the
Well,
person
no.
you
Well,
were trying to
Musk
emulate?
essentially, when he became the richest person, I think it
Yeah.
was 2018, 2019. During that year, he was spending 120-hour weeks working, which is crazy to me. So I was like, okay, if this guy, at the peak of when he's the richest, he's got all these different businesses, is doing that number of hours, I might as well do it as well. You know, like screw sleep, because that's what his whole thing is. He barely slept, and he was always drinking, you know, energy drinks. So I was like, let's do it, and I felt very productive for the first hour,
Yeah. Falls off, man.
and then it just plummeted. So, you know,
Are you still trying to do the 120 hours a week?
no,
Oh, yeah, okay.
no, it's just useless. You're putting in 120 hours, but it's not 120 hours of productive work.
Quality work.
Maybe
Yeah.
10.
Yeah,
10
I
of
know,
that is
I know,
probably
and then
good.
you're just like,
And then it's just,
please get me
yeah,
out.
please
When
get
am
me out
I
of here.
socially allowed to not do this anymore?
Yeah, I think just yesterday night when I was having that attack, my head was going with the story of like, oh, you know, just for once, I probably swap with just, you know, a regular uni student who's, you know, maybe partying on the weekends, just chilling, cruising through uni, not really worried about life just yet, you know.
Oh yeah,
Has a
that
hot
worry for
girlfriend.
life kicks in,
Yeah,
and
just,
we have it so good. Like it's gonna kick in so much harder. I feel
oh yeah.
in a couple years' time once we actually have real responsibilities. But
Yeah. I think, but the thing is though, like but when I woke up this morning, which is why again I also think that sleep is, and I think this is something that other people say as well, is sleep is one of the greatest therapy sessions. You sleep on it, the next morning you're feeling much better. So this morning I was like, I don't want to have it any other way. Like, dude, fuck it, I lose hair, that's fine, you know. So
choose what matters to you. Follow your gut. And with Elon Musk thing, it's interesting. Think whatever you want of him. He's done some really incredible things.
yeah.
Um, how much of like what is it about him that you like, and what is it about him that you don't want to be like? Because also think about how the decisions will kind of.
Yeah.
It's hard, but you
No,
think
it's,
about how you project yourself,
I
right?
gotta say, it's actually fairly simple when it comes to his character. Is the only thing that I really respect, the drive that he has, the fact that he, you know, even during all these peak years, anxiety's never left him. I don't want that. And the other thing is he slept on the floors of the factories that he was, you know, he was working, the mega factories for Tesla and all that. So that's what I would respect about him, and it's something that I'm willing to do as well, is to forego that sense of comfort. Yeah. But apart from that, I don't want to be a tyrant like him or Jobs. I don't think that being mean to people is needed necessarily. I think being firm is important. One thing that I do want, which is probably not good, is to not cede control. Once I have the company that I want to run, which again, putting it out there is probably not a good idea. But I think
Yeah. What do you mean cede control? Cede control to
having
investors, or cede control to a
cede
CEO?
control
Or?
to essentially, like, you know, a board that's going to try and stop what
Yeah.
the nimbleness of a startup at that scale can be, I think, can only be achieved, again, wrong, I could be wrong, can only be achieved when you have the CEO in full control. You have a board of directors who's more like an advisory board, and if they went unanimous, they could probably try to stop you. But anything less than, you know, even if there's one vote that's in confidence of the CEO, that's it, done. That's going to happen. I think that's the way to be extremely risky, but at the same time be able to beat startups to a new technology. Well, what's your opinion on that, though?
On nimbleness.
Yeah.
And control. My opinion, my experience with Tensible was that I'm someone who loves to, or it's not really a passion for control. I actually don't like it. It's just more, I don't like feeling like things are out of control.
Yeah.
And I think that hurts me or hurt our team in some ways where I had a hard time just understanding that we're a unit trying to move
Yeah.
mountains in the sea of medtech development,
Yeah.
and that I needed to. There was trust of character, but I think, and this is, I have a tough time with this, but trust of delegation, and I'm learning to become a better manager. So the point of nimbleness and control, I think you're right about control, and I think you're right about control. About you need the vision is what you came up with, and that's why you decided to go on this pursuit of creating this company. And I think you need to have control of that.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure, it's your responsibility to make sure that sporadic behaviors, ulterior incentives from other stakeholders is not going to get in the way of the reason that you decided to pursue that.
Yeah.
But I think control in the sense, sorry, let me just turn off
You gotta stop
my
that.
alarm.
Yeah.
No. Pursuit of, what was I saying? I was talking about, I completely blanked now.
I think you were talking about control, and that in what sense it makes sense, and then in what sense it doesn't.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to think that you can control every knob of the world or of your internal business. So you gotta become good at trusting others and helping them be effective in creating this vision. So relating to Steve Jobs, for example, I think control of making sure that things are perfect by design.
Yeah.
I think that's a good philosophy because maybe the customer doesn't know what he wants, or he tells you implicitly what he wants, but you have to figure out what he wants. And I think allowing for lower than perfect or amazing standard is just not going to be conducive to good quality. So having strong control over that, but not having strong control and manipulation over people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Was kind
really
of
does.
a little all over the place.
That's no. That's I think anyone who's listening intently will be able to understand what the point that you're making.
Yeah, okay.
So, I know you gotta run off now, but I'm just really excited to see how we find ourselves in
Me too.
in the future. Definitely keen on working with you on a couple of projects that we might indulge in, but
Likewise, I have a bucket list goal of making 20 companies. So
20 companies. That's
so
I love that. I respect that.
I think it's a bit too small actually. But the
20
thing
is small. Bro,
yeah,
come
but
on.
it doesn't have to be these conglomerates of Apple. It doesn't have to be like that. I would say that I've already done 4 businesses or companies. I've done like a snow shoveling service in Montreal for like
That's
a
so
month.
cool.
I did Tensible, that's probably the biggest, most tangible one.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, those are stepping stones, iteration to the
No,
fun
absolutely.
thing. And I would love to work with you at some point as well.
Yeah, I think it's an iterative process when it comes to businesses, and 20 businesses, 20 iterations. The last one may not be the best one. I would hope that it is, but it might be something in between that you might just find in the right spot, and then you just spiral downwards. Now that's not gonna happen.
No, yeah, exactly.
That could happen, but
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's not gonna happen. You've been a very, very open-minded individual, and I don't think you should change that. I don't think you will change that. I think you really are someone that I continue to both get inspired by, look up to, and at the same time sense a level-headedness when it comes to our conversations.
Thank you. It's very kind. I also thank you for having me on this show. I appreciate you.
You're the first video
the long podcast.
Proper long podcast that I've
I'm
had.
excited. Hello, future millions of viewers, billions of viewers.
I believe
I think when you find awesome connections, you can feel it, and I appreciate. I'm so lucky that we come into each other's lives, and you inspire me in the creativity and also how hard you work.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for being here. You know, you're one of the best mates that I've had so far, and keen on working with you, keen on staying in touch with you. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing where we go from here. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
fun couple years
it
ahead.
will be.
Many years
Will be
ahead.
many years ahead, unless one of us. Well, no, never mind.
Yeah.
Just
Enjoy the moments.
cause yeah. All right, man. I'll
Yeah,
do we just do
good
that again
handshake.
before?
Yeah,
it's
it's
like a
fine.
handshake. We got to do it.
It's fine. They were good. They were good
hands.
handshakes. I'm normally terrible at handshakes. It was a bit awkward.
Just
but
just gotta
third
finish
one.
it up,
All
man.
right.
Yeah,
There
third
we go.
one.
Good.
All right.
Solid grip.
All right, man. I'll get back to listening
sounds
to Talking Heads again. And I'll
Pleasure
talk to you
talking
soon,
to you.
man.
See you,
All right.
Animesh.
See you, man.